Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ireland, the land of smiles, and we hope you have the best laugh of your life tonight. Now, live on stage, here's the world's favourite Irish comedian. Let's hear it for Ireland's son of fun, it's Dusty Young.
The top of the morning to you and the rest of the day to yourselves. Isn't it lovely to see you? It is. Now, do you know what I'm going to tell you? I got a new car yesterday. It comes with an airbag and a spoiler. My wife and her mother. I think her mother's French. Well, she's a baguette. You know, I was watching the television before I came on. The news was on, and that Robin Cook was on. He's got a face like a squirrel looking through a hedge. I've 6 just like him in my garden, and one has a fishing rod in his hand. Has anyone got that Sky TV? I've got Sky Digital. I've got 83 channels of rubbish on my television. My remote control is so big, last night my armchair fell down the back of it. I was watching football on the telly there, a match on that Sky television, and this skydiver parachuted right onto the halfway line, and the referee booked him for dissent. My pal Mick's always in trouble with the police, and his little son was in school last week, and the teacher said, "What comes after a sentence?" And he said, "Please, miss, an appeal." Do you know, the traffic in Ireland's getting awful now, and if you ever lose your way and ask directions, it's awful confusing. I said to a fella last week, "How do you get to Lansdowne Road?" He says, "Me brother takes me." I used to live in County Kildare, you know. Now, County Kildare is the flattest county in Ireland. I mean, the Mountain Rescue is a fella with a stepladder. But I love going to America. America is the land of opportunity. Well, you take that Michael Jackson. Where other country can a poor black boy grow up to be a rich white man? I went to see me granddad in an old folks' home there in Dublin the other week, and I said, "What are you doing, granddad?" He said, "I'm finishing off this 20,000 piece jigsaw puzzle." I said, 20,000 pieces? What's it supposed to be? He said, "Well, the picture on the box is a chicken." Do you know what it was? A box of corn flakes. Great. I went to one of those lap dancing clubs last week in Dublin, and if you like the girdle, you stick a fiver on her backside. Well, I stuck one fiver on, and Sean stuck another fiver on. Seamus took out his credit card, swiped it on her bum, and took the 2 fivers. Now, we're going to have a little raffle tonight for underprivileged children. Now, I've got 8. Well, I had 9, but we hung one as an example. And the first prize is the Bill Clinton computer. It said 6 inches of hard drive and no memory. But I called for the drink there before I came in tonight, you know, went into one of this pub, scruffy, dirty, fully obos, the service was awful. It was an English team pub. The man said, "You're a stranger around here, aren't you?" I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "You put your drink down." Oh, I knew it was an English pub because they had a Happy Minute. Paddy came in and he had a sign under his arm. It said, "Long vehicle." I said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "It fell off the back of a lorry." And they had this sign on the back of the wall that said, "If you're drinking to forget, please pay in advance." But I met this girl like every old chat in the Blarney. She said, "Why don't you come home to my place and meet me father and brother?" I did. It was the same fella. Now, all my stories have a moral, and you look like you need some yourselves. I'm staying in this hotel now. It's called the Yumka. Well, it's spelled YMCA. Has any of you ever been to County Kerry? Because that's where the girl in the white shell suit is the bride. Barely said to Paddy, "Will you love me always?" And Paddy says, "Yes. Which way will we try first?" They were trying to improve their love life, and she bought him some of them Viagra tablets. And the other night, he woke up in bed shouting, "I feel like a new man." And she woke up and said, "So do I." He is a right idiot. He was going out the other night and the shirt was soaking wet. She said, "Are you bad? You'll catch your death. Why are you wearing the wet shirt?" He said, "It says in the label, wash and wear." His little son Seamus came home from school last Thursday, said he needed an encyclopedia for school. His father said, "You can walk to school like all the other kids." There was a big jumbo jet trying to do an emergency landing at Dublin Airport, and Paddy Murphy, the pilot on his first flight, was onto the control tower, and they said to him, "What's your height and position?" He said, "I'm 5'6" and I'm sitting in the front. I like that myself. Paddy went on that programme in England called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And Chris Tartan said, "Are you a natural born Irishman?" He said, "No, caesarean section." He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Paddy Murphy." He said, "Where are you from?" He says, "Can I ring a friend?" Now he is thick. He thinks the Gaza Strip is a Jewish nightclub. But you know, Paddy Murphy never left his wife much when he died. Mind you, he left her a lot when he was alive. And all the Americans love coming to Ireland looking for the roots. This American went into Paddy Flynn's shop in Galway for a packet of chewing gum, and the shop was packed to the ceiling with sacks of salt. The American said to Paddy, "You sure sell a lot of salt." Paddy said, "I hardly sell any salt at all, but the salesman from Dublin, Keith, sells a lot of salt." I think his son Sean takes after him because he was in school one day drawing on a piece of paper. The teacher said, "What are you drawing?" And Sean said, "A picture of God." The teacher said, "Well, that's very difficult because nobody knows what he looks like." He said, "Well, they know what he looks like when I finish this picture." Come here, listen. This pink elephant and a green snake walked into Murphy's bar in Dublin. Parm said, "You're too early. Paddy hasn't come in yet." I tell you something though, it's very hard to get a parking ticket in Dublin because first you have to find a place to park. Paddy was buying a sealskin coat for his wife Mary and said to the woman in the shop, "Is it waterproof?" She said, "Well, have you ever seen a seal with an umbrella?" Listen, will you hold your wish for a minute? Listen. Paddy went to the doctor and said, "Doctor, I think I'm a dog." The doctor said, "Well, hop on the couch." Paddy said, "I'm not allowed on the couch." Murphy was driving to Dublin from Galway, and on the way he picked up this girl hitchhiker. And he said to her, "What do you do for a living?" She said, "I'm a magician." Paddy said, "Well, prove it to me." So she touched him on the knee and he turned into a hotel. No, don't laugh. Actually, Paddy was a main kleptia, you know. He went into shops backwards and left things on the counter. And it's lovely to see the girls here tonight because, you know, girls, marriage is like a 3-ring circus. First, there's the engagement ring, then there's the wedding ring, and then the suffering. Because remember now, marriage is the price men pay for sex, and sex is the price women pay for marriage. But Paddy was married to a very ugly woman. The other night, the local peeping Tom knocked at her door and told her to close her curtains. I have to tell you, Paddy went into the boss one day and said, "Me wife told me to ask you for a rise." And the boss says, "Well, I'll ask my wife if he can have one." He was in having a drink one night after work, and he said to Mick, he said, "What's Sean's other name?" Mick said, "Sean who?" I nearly lost you there, didn't I? He said, "Sean Riley, that's his name. Did you know he's taken up meditation?" He said, "Meditation? Well, it's better than sitting around all day doing nothing, I suppose." Murphy saw his grandson Seamus sitting on the fence crying and said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I can't do what the big boys do." So Murphy sat down with him and started crying himself. Paddy came out of the pub one night full of drink. He was like an MFI wardrobe. Just then, a fire engine was passing by with its siren going full blast. He said, "You won't sell much ice cream at that speed." Murphy had to crash the other night. He knocked this fella down. The fella says, "Are you blind?" He said, "I hit you, didn't I?" Now wait till I tell you. Paddy wanted a parrot for a pet. I went into a pet shop in Dublin, and the man said, "I've got a great parrot here." He said, "If you pull its right leg, it sings Danny Boy. If you pull its left leg, it sings The Wild Rover." Paddy said, "What'll it do if I pull both its legs?" The parrot said, "I'll fall off me perch, you aegis." Paddy was going home from work one day. He had his little son Sean sitting on his lap, and this very pretty girl got on the bus, and Paddy said to his son, "Get up and give that girl your seat." By the way, we're going to put a statue of Ian Paisley on O'Connell Street now, where Nelson's Pillar used to be, and let the pigeons speak for us all. Listen to this. Paddy was at the All-Ireland football final, and there was an empty seat beside him. Mick said, "Whose is the seat?" Paddy said, "It's my wife, but she died." Mick said, "Well, couldn't you give it to one of your friends?" He said, "Yes, but they're all at the funeral." Listen. Come here. Mick was walking home from the pub one night full of Guinness, and two nuns were walking up the street towards him, and one of the nuns went either side of him. Mick said, "How the hell did she do that?" Paddy and Mick were stood outside the pub one night, and Paddy said, "Mick, which is the nearest to Ireland, the moon or America?" And Mick said, "The moon." He says, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, I can see the moon from here, but I can't see America." The policeman said to Paddy in the police station, he said, "Paddy, did you take a lie detector test?" Paddy said, "If there's one missing, it's nothing to do with me." Paddy was watching Manchester United play Liverpool on the telly the other night in the pub, and every time United scored a goal, the dog would start running round in circles and barking. The barman said, "What does he do when Liverpool scores?" Paddy said, "Somersaults." The barman said, "How many somersaults?" He said, "It just depends on how hard I kick him." Paddy and Mary had been going out for about 20 years together, and one day she said, "Paddy, is it not time we were getting married?" And Paddy said, "But at our age, who'd have either of us?" Here's a lovely story. Poor Mary died in her sleep, and when the undertaker came to take her away in the coffin, as they were carrying her down the stairs, they hit a banister very hard, and Mary suddenly woke up and lived another 15 years. When she finally died, And the undertaker came back to take her away again. As they were coming down the stairs, Paddy said, "Be careful with that banister, boys. Remember what happened 15 years ago." After they buried her in the old cemetery, there was a big roll of thunder and a flash of light, and Paddy looked up to the sky and said, "God, she's arrived already." Bridie was stood at the bus stop one day, and the woman in front of her had these enormous ears. She said, "How did your ears get as big as that?" She said, "Well, me husband likes to nibble me ears in bed at night." And Bridie said, "Well, so does mine, but my ears aren't as big as yours." The other said, "I know, but we have bunk beds." Her friend Eileen was 2 tours married. She was there, the priest was there, but Paddy never turned up. Mary went in to the undertaker's one day to buy a shroud for Paddy when he died. The undertaker charged her £20. Mary said, "They're only a fiver down the road." He said, "But they're no good, sure. He'd have his knees through it in a week." I have a little pal, Murphy, in Dublin, went back to night school to study, and one night in the pub he said to Mick, "Do you know who Boris Yeltsin is?" Mick says, "No." He said, "Well, he is the president of Russia." "Oh, isn't that great, isn't it?" He said, "Now, do you know who Tony Blair is?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, Tony Blair is the Prime Minister of Great Britain." Mick said, "Paddy, do you know who Tony O'Reilly is?" Paddy said, "No." And Mick said, "Well, he's the fellow who visits your wife when you're at night school." His house was so drafty. It was so drafty the wind blew the locks off the gas meter. Well, that's what he told the police. Oh, he can talk. He would get Stevie Wonder a driving licence in. Paddy said, "Nick, don't divorce Mary. Buy her a bunch of roses and the shock will kill her. And you can use the flowers for the funeral." Mary said to Bridie, "I'm looking for a husband." Mary said, "But you've already got a husband." She said, "That's the husband I'm looking for," she said. Do you know what I think the perfect marriage would be? A deaf man married to a blind woman. Mary said to the priest in the house one day, "Those are Paddy's ashes on the mantelpiece." Priest said, "I never knew Paddy was dead." "Oh, he's not dead. He's too lazy to get an ashtray." Little Sean, 5'3" in his stocking feet, was in court for hitting his wife, a big strapping country girl, and he said to the judge, "She was stood in front of me with her back to me. The poker was in the corner, the back door was open." I thought to myself, "I might never get the chance again." Now, listen. The solicitor said to the policeman, "Why do you think Murphy was drunk?" "Just because he was on all fours in the middle of the road." The policeman said, "Well, he was trying to roll up the white line as well." Paddy went into the shop and said to the shopkeeper, "Do you sell bereavement cards?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Could I swap this get well card for one?" Paddy got a job as the gardener in a nudist colony, and one day he saw this old man walking around with a very long beard. He said, "Why have you got the long beard?" He said, "Well, someone has to go for the papers." Paddy was given 2 weeks to live by the doctor, and he asked for the last week of July and the first week in August. But the doctor was explaining to Paddy how nature had a great way of compensating for physical problems. He said, like, if a man is blind, he will usually have a greater sense of hearing. And then if a man is deaf, he'd usually have a greater sense of smell. He said, you're right, doctor. I've noticed if a man has a short leg, his other one is always a little bit longer. Funny man, Paddy. He went to the bank manager and said, can you check me balance? And the bank manager pushed him over. He went off with Mick one day to the greyhound racing, and Mick had this lovely greyhound. He said, Mick, is that dog fast? He said, fast. Every third lap he has to jump over himself. But I tell you something, the dog was no good at playing poker. Every time he gets a good hand, he wags his tail. Mary Murphy was a great housekeeper. Every time she got divorced, she kept the house. Mrs. Murphy was walking down the street one day with a dog. Her pal Bridie said, how long have you had the dog? She said, I got her for Paddy. And her pal said, that wasn't a bad swap, was it? Mick, the window cleaner, was sitting with Mary in the kitchen having a cup of tea and a sandwich, and a little dog was playing around. He said, Mary, I think your dog likes me. Mary said, I'm not surprised. You're eating off his plate. This is a daft gag. Paddy walked into a pub in the west of Ireland with a dog and a rabbit. And the dog sat down at the piano and started playing Irish songs. And the rabbit started singing along. Well, everyone in the pub was thrilled at night, buying him drinks. Now, when he was going home that night, he said, fellas, I have a confession to make. The rabbit can sing a note. The dog's a ventriloquist. I thought you'd like that one. This Dublin fella rang his doctor and said, I think my operation has gone wrong. I'm incontinent. Doctor said, where are you ringing from? He said, from the waist down. He said, drink's the problem. He's been told to limit his drink to 1 pint a day, and already he's up to April 2005. This girl came up to Paddy in a street in London and said, I'll do anything you want for 30 quid if you can say it in 3 words. Paddy said, paint my house. Great. He was very generous, you know, and there used to be a little blind man sat outside the pub every night selling matches, and every night Paddy put 20p in the box and never took the matches. And about a month later, he came out of the pub and put 20p in the box. And the little blind man says, are you the man who always puts the 20p in the box and never takes the matches? Yes. He said, well, the matches have gone up to 30p now. I see the Irish task force have just arrived out in the Gulf now with 2 submarines full of paratroopers. Listen to this. 2 Irish lads walked into a pub and one of them was so drunk he collapsed on the floor and couldn't move a finger. Paddy said to the barman, a pint please. Barman said, what about your mate? He said, no more for him, he's driving, he said. Now Mary was always in the bookies because she liked a little bet, and every day she had a bet she always won. The bookie said, you must study the farm. Ah, no, I just stuck a pin in the paper. And the bookie said, you've had 4 wins today. How come? Oh, I didn't use a pin today. I used a fork instead. Paddy, her husband, was coming out of the bookies one day, and the little tramp said to him, could you lend me £1 for a meal? He said, well, come with me and I'll buy you a drink. The tramp said, I don't drink. He said, well, have a fag. The tramp said, I don't smoke. And he said, well, I'll give you certainty for the 3:30. And the tramp said, I don't gamble either. So Paddy said, well, come home to my wife. I want her to see what happens to a man who doesn't drink, smoke, or gamble. And you know, he always came back from the races with a small fortune. That's because he went with a large fortune. He was in this gardening shop in Dublin choosing a wheelbarrow, and he said to the man, I don't know whether to go for the green one or the red one. It's for me wife's birthday. The shopkeeper said, is it a surprise? She said, yes, she's expecting her fur coat. Mary said to Paddy, I don't look 35, do I? He said, no, but you used to. He said, listen, little Seamus went into the police station and said, I've lost me dad. The policeman said, what's he like? He said, beer, women, the odd bet. Oh, the Irish are so funny. I heard two old men talking in a Dublin pub last week. Sean said, Seamus, have you heard of them new Viagra tablets? He said, heard of them? I'm taking 2 a day. He said, what for? He says, they stop me rolling out of bed at night. Seamus said, well, I crushed them up into a powder and snipped them up my nose. He said, you're supposed to take it with a glass of water. He said, at my age, it's all in your head. Now, it's nice to see the girls here, as I said, but you know, girls, men are like floor tiles. If you lay them right the first time, you can walk all over them for the rest of your life. Oh, my wife's very cutting. She said to make in love with me is like having a wardrobe fall on her with the key still in the lock. Aren't women the most amazing people in the world? They are. A woman can spot a blonde hair on your shoulder in a bedroom with a 40-watt bulb in, but they can't see the garage doors with the headlights on. Wait till you hear this. Paddy went for a job in the Dublin Library, and the librarian said, we have a spelling test. How many D's is there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? He said, 263. He said, how come? He said, D-D-D-D-D-D-D, all together. Oh, I should have told you. I nearly won the lottery last week. You know, my next door neighbour Mick won it. £150,000 he won. When he went down to get the money, the wee man in the shop said, I can't pay that lot out today. He said, I tell you what, I'll give you £50,000 today. You come back on Wednesday, I'll give you another 50,000. If you leave it until Saturday week, I'll pay you the balance of the other 50,000. Paddy said, I'm not having all that running about. The game's off. Give me £1 back. Seamus O'Toole was parking his car outside Paddy's house. Paddy said, shift it. Bloke said, why should I? This is a cul-de-sac. Paddy said, I don't care what make the car is, shift it. The doctor examined Paddy and said, it's quite obvious to me that drink is entirely responsible for your state of health. Paddy said, I'm glad to hear that because my wife said it's all my fault. A little old man, 75 years of age, sitting outside Mooney's Bar, Dublin, crying like a baby. Policeman said, what's wrong? The wee man said, I got married last week to a young girl and she cooks all my favourite meals, buys me fags, gives me money to go to the pub and makes love to me every night when I come home. Policeman said, well, why are you crying? He said, I've forgotten where I live. Wonderful. No, don't laugh. Did you know that 40% of Irish people can't read and 40% can't write and the other 30% can't add up? Do you have any children, missus? Well, children brighten the home, you know, 'cause they never turn the lights off. Murphy was going on holidays with his new girlfriend and got a lot of Viagra tablets from the doctor. Doctor said, don't take them every day. Take one on Monday and skip Tuesday. Take one on Wednesday and skip Thursday. And then one on Friday and skip Saturday. The girlfriend rang the doctor. He said, Murphy's collapsed. He said, was it his heart? No, it's all that skipping he had to do for you, she said. Sure, isn't it lovely? Casey came into the pub on Friday with a black eye, swollen lips, and 3 broken ribs. Mick said, what happened? Casey said, bungee jumping. Mick said, did the rope break? He said, no, Mr. Bungee came home early. He has this new Japanese pen friend. I think he's a car thief. He's called Tommy Tukamoto. Do you know, Murphy's got a mirror in his bedroom now. It's not in the ceiling. He holds it over his wife's mouth to see if she's still breathing. This fella got into Mick's taxi in Dublin and said, take me to the Dublin stuttering school. Taxi driver said, you don't need to go to school, you're perfect already. I don't know if you notice, girls, but Irish fellas are not romantic at all. In fact, Paddy McGinty's Goat is a love song in Ireland. Paddy was going to London looking for work and he got on the train to Liverpool and the bloke said, £25 change a crew. Paddy said, I won't be change here. He was getting into a taxi at Euston Station and said, how much is it to Kilburton? And the taxi driver said, it's £10. He said, how much for me cases? He said, well, they go free. He said, well, you take the cases, I'll get the bus. Oh, Mary went into the police and said, I've been raped by an Irishman. The policeman said, how do you know he was Irish? She said, I had to do all the work. Paddy said, Mick, if it wasn't for the moustache, you'd look like my wife. He said, I haven't got a moustache. He said, no, but my wife has. Paddy went into a new cafe in Dublin and the menu said, all you can eat for a £5. He said, give me a tenner's worth. Paddy was funny. Sean was in the cafe already. He said to Paddy, give us £1 for a sandwich. He said, let me see the sandwich first. Oh, now he is tick. His wife had triplets and he went looking for the other 2 fellas. Paddy said to his wife, Sean won't speak to me because he says I'm not his equal. He said, that tick, lazy, foul-mouthed job, of course you're his equal. Mary has twin boys, one is 6 and the other is 12. Paddy went into work one day and the boss said, you should have been here an hour ago. He said, why? What happened? So the boss says, why are you late? Paddy said, I overslept. The boss said, you mean you sleep at home as well? Big tick Mick went into a cafe in London and the waitress said, I'm sorry, we don't serve Irishmen in here. He said, I don't eat them, bring me a bowl of soup. Now let me ask you a question. What do you call a 6'6" Irishman with a shotgun? You call him sir. Paddy said to Mick in the pub, I hear you become religious. He says, yes, I'm a Jehovah's bystander. Paddy said, don't you mean a witness? He said, there's no witnesses in Belfast. He went to see that film in Dublin last week, the Titanic. He asked for a seat in the shallow end. And the commissioner said, we only have standing room for two. He said, are they together? The little parish priest was stopped for speeding in Dublin, and he said to the policeman, he said, I'm Father Fox. The cop said, I don't care if you're Mother Goose, I'm still giving you a ticket. Mrs. Muldoon, the housekeeper to the priest, came in one day and said, Father, your breakfast is ready. The priest said, Mary, it is our breakfast. Everything in this house is ours. She said, right, Father, I'll remember that. She came in at lunchtime and said, Father, your lunch is ready. He said, Mary, how many times do I have to tell you? It is our lunch. Everything in this house is ours. He was watching a football match with the bishop on the telly that night about 9 o'clock. She came in and said, Father, I just put a hot water bottle in our bed. We just got the new lottery now in Ireland, you know, it's up and running. £1 million jackpot. That's £1 a year for 1 million years. And the Allied Irish Bank is great. They have 8 cashiers, and when it's really busy, they have 2. 3 very old men sitting in a pub in Dublin. Paddy said, it's windy today. Sean said, no, it's Thursday. Seamus said, so am I. Let's have a drink. Oh, they're quick in Dublin. Paddy went to buy a parrot in the pet shop, and he said to the owner, can it speak? And the parrot says, yes. Can you fly? Do you know, he doesn't know how long he's been out of work. You know, he's lost his birth certificate. He never worked a day in his life until he died, and his wife had him cremated and put his ashes in an egg timer. Come here. What do you call 6 Irishmen in a circle? A dope ring. He was trying to chat this girl up in the pub last night. He said, where have you been all my life? She said, well, for the first 20 years I wasn't born. Oh, he finally gave her the old blarney, and she brought him back to her flat, and she offered her honour, and he honoured her offer, and all night it was honour and offer. Mary was ticked. She went to the doctor. He checked her and said, you've got acute angina. She said, I came here to be examined, not admired. Mary was a really big girl, a big country girl, 23 stone. She went to one of them speak your weight machines. The voice said, one at a time, please. Little Seamus went up to his granny. He said, are you going to do your trick now, Granny? She said, what trick is that? He said, well, me daddy says you drink like a fish. Mick went into a pub one night for a pint. He said to the barman, if that pint had a head, it would hang it in shame, he said. Mary went into the butcher shop and said, 2 pork chops and make them lean. Butcher says, yes, love, which way? Mary went to church for confession the other day. They have a new express confessional now. It's for people with 10 sins or less. The Irish way of thinking. Paddy went for the job as a mechanic and said, I want £200 a week. Boss says, but you're unskilled. Paddy says, yes, but it's always hard to do a job when you know nothing about it. He was in court one day for reckless drive, and judge says, 6 months or £1,000. He said, I'll take the money. You've been great. You've been really great. And I have to go very shortly. I love short gags. Murphy was a terrible coward, and when he committed suicide, he shot himself in the back. Let me leave you with something to think of. Remember, the Undertaker is the best friend you have in the world. He'd be the last one to let you down. Anyway, a very good night to you all, and I hope to see you all again very soon indeed. Take care, good night, good luck, and God bless you all.